The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com. Hello and welcome to the latest live episode of Wrestling with Johners, part of the Johners Podcasting Network. Today I'm joined by a good friend of mine, referee, commentator, designer, but massive wrestling fan, Nick Calloway. Nick, how are you doing, my friend?
Not too bad. Nervous. First time I've done the whole front camera thing. It's usually the dulcet tones from a distance or shouting at somebody as a referee, but not too bad. Thank you.
You're going to be absolutely fine. It's going to be a really good conversation. We're going to take a deep dive into Stowmarket Slam, into NTK, into your wrestling fandom, and everything else in between. If you do want to get in touch with Nick and you want to send him a question, or if you have any comments regarding the up-and-coming show for World War Wrestling, but more importantly, sending your questions for Nick, do so on your chosen device. They'll ping through to us and we'll do our very best to answer any questions live on air. But Nick, first of all, let's talk about it. And I do have a graphic here. Let's talk about Stowmarket Slam on the 14th of this month, 14th of March. Pardon me?
13th.
13th.
Yeah, Sunday.
My apologies, I don't know where the 14th came from, but it looks like a hell of a show. So just a couple of weeks around the corner. And look, say you're going to be there front and center behind the commentary desk, doing comms for the evening. How are you feeling so close to the big show? A little bit nervous and excited all at the same time, I'm sure.
Oh, definitely. As soon as I walk through the curtain at a World War Wrestling show, the butterflies kick in massively. But the energy, because Stowmarket is a venue like no other, it's all eyes on everything going on because of the way we set it up. And in that moment, it's a case of, right, we're in the zone, let's go. The energy kicks in, the World War, we want war chants that Jake gets us off the mark with, Commissioner Cox, the volume, the energy of people talking about it for weeks beforehand, all of the matches. As a wrestling fan, which is ultimately why I wanted to get involved, for me, it's, I do look forward to this, what we're going to see tonight. That's a genuine excitement that can't be beaten for me.
Oh, 100%, 100%. We're going to break down each of the matches. So for the next 10 minutes or so, we're going to be having a look at the card. You're going to give us a little bit of an insight into how these matches have come about. But let's have a look at some of the matches that have been announced already. How about this one here? A three-way war. Alexander Roth versus Callie Gray and Danny Duggan. That is a stacked match there alone. Give us your thoughts and your insight into this one, and that's three amazing UK talent there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, a three-way war is obviously a unique situation where you've always got to be looking over your shoulder, because it's not as simple as a one-on-one, not as simple as an elimination. It's literally eyes in the back of your head time. Roth goes without saying. He used to be part of one of the greatest tag teams we've ever had, the Hit Set. Just charisma, just ability, beautiful stuff. The stuff they created with the Rebellion in that trio of matches, absolutely phenomenal. Since the Battle of the Barns 2020 that we did during the last 2 years, which sucked, let's be fair about it, the evolution that he had into Rothmore, he just switches it up another gear. It's go time for him, and he's absolutely phenomenal on his own or part of a tag team. There is no doubt. As for the other two, I've heard great things coming into this match. Great things. I've never had the privilege, other than watching highlights of their matches, to actually enjoy it live. But the stuff they do, the pace between this match is going to be one of the quickest, one of the strongest, one of the most non-stop. I honestly think, and I'm not dismissing anything else, it could be match of the night quite easily because of what's going on.
Yeah.
There's just so many characters in World War Wrestling. I say I haven't seen two of these guys before. When you walk into World War Wrestling and you walk into that war zone, your ego's left at the door, your reputation's left at the door. You come in and you prove you can hang, because otherwise it's just, you're not going to come back. It's that simple. You come in to make an impact. The War Trials, same thing. Nobody who's ever been on a hall, if you haven't been on a hall show, you're in. That's you're in. Prove you belong there. And obviously the history of the War Trial speaks for itself. We've had former champions come from all of that. But this match is going to be absolutely superb, non-stop.
It certainly is. It certainly is. What about this one here for the World War Wrestling Tag Team Championships? The Rebellion. I've had the Rebellion on this podcast versus the Lucha Lions. Obviously, Lion Kid there. Got to be honest, not too familiar with his partner. You might be able to shed a little bit of light on that tag team. But tell us about this match. I mean, speaking about matches that could steal the show, this one's very much the same.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said before, no dismissal of what the people have done before. Every single match has the ability to be the match of the night.
Yeah.
Regardless, any sort of match. I mean, the Lucha Lions, I know Wade, I've known Lion Kid for ages. There's his little plot figure, the old version, but we'll get back to that later. But honestly, the Rebellion are, for me, the tag team in Britain. They're our champions for a reason because they work so hard. They evolve over time. They're arrogant little shits, but they are so good. As a tag team, they already know what the other one's thinking before they even do it. There's just that understanding, the awareness that comes from being that solid as a unit. Yeah. With regards to the Lucha Lions, I too don't know a great deal about Lion Kid's partner, but I know that Lion Kid would not pick somebody to fill the boots of Nero Leon, who was his original tag team partner, if he didn't think he could go, especially given the fact that this is for the World War Wrestling Tag Team Championship.
Yeah, you can see that one being another fast-paced match.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. It's going to be non-stop because with all of them, they can all go up top. They can all throw hands. They can have a brawl around the ringside area. Stowmarket is a very different environment in the fact that, yes, there's the space to fight, but believe me, they will fill it and move away from the ring because they're probably going to come from everywhere.
If you sat on that front row.
Yeah, duck. But it's going to be violent. It's not going to be horrifically violent, but neither of these teams want to quit. The Rebellion are our first ever tag team champions. Yeah. But they work their socks off to keep the belts. The Lucha Lions are coming in. Wade's got a proven record in World War.
Yeah.
But this is a new match. Every match has to be taken as the newest match. It can't be, well, we've won before, so we're going to go in. If you do that, it's just complacent and you're not going to go very far. Yeah. That's when the hiccups start to happen, the mistakes. You have to go in. This is a match in front of me. And both of these teams will do that.
Oh, brilliant. 100% looking forward to that one. How about this one then? A number one contenders match. We've probably all seen the little hype video, the little promo video that's playing on social media to crown the new number one contender for the World War Wrestling Heavyweight Championship match. Corey McRae versus Bullet. Two of the best independent wrestlers from the UK, let's be honest. And they've got a long-standing history with one another as well. But Nick, give us your insight into this one. This one's going to be a cracker, isn't it?
I said about the Rebellion being a violent match. This one, given their history and the fact that they are very handsy, is going to be absolutely insane. I don't want to be the referee for this. I'm quite happy sitting behind the desk. I'm quite happy sitting behind the desk, thanks. But what you've got here is you've got Bullet, who's basically carved out of the mold of the older wrestlers. Everything you want in a heavyweight. He's big. He's strong. He can move. He'll hit you like a chest freezer, much like Will Cruz. He will hit you and you'll know you've been hit. But he literally, when he picks you up for that choke slam, when he does the power bomb, it's just, it makes me cringe thinking, glad that's not me. Glad that's not me. But he's tearing up everywhere. He's got belts in other places. Corey McRae, you look at him and he looks like the perfect template of an MMA fighter. He's strong, he's vicious, but he's quick. They're both thinking wrestlers. There's never the case of, well, I'm going to go in with the mindset if I'm going to beat him up and that'll be it. They always have to think. They're always checking each other out. In the 3 matches they've done before, again, the first one was Corey McRae versus Bullet in the Battle of the Barns 2020 series. One kick ended it all. That's the thing. With Corey McRae, he's got the power, he's got the pace. And what he did in that first match was good night, sweet prince. One kick landed plumb and Bullet was done. I have never seen someone or something fall like that unless you just cut down a tree, because it was just bang, instant. He was done ski. But likewise, I've never seen somebody manhandle Corey the way that Bullet does. And at the end of the last match in Stowmarket, that's led to the blow-off of this trifecta to be the number one contenders match, I've never seen somebody physically, black out, knock out. He didn't tap him out because he just passed out. Yeah. Corey McRae, folding him up. But to Corey's credit, he fought it as long as he could. But when you've got somebody with arms like tree trunks and legs like concrete pillars, putting all of that pressure, you have a choice. You either escape or you don't.
Yeah.
So this match, the hype video doesn't do it justice. It's like the UFC fight videos. This is that big fight. This is what's been before. Fine. You know you need to be wary of being knocked out. You know you need to be aware of being tapped out or blacked out. Doesn't mean a damn thing. It's for all the marbles now. I know it's a cliche, but this is the point that it stands at, that if you win this, one, you're never going to be the same again. One of you has to go and work back to the point you are now. One goes on to face our champion. I mean, it might be Will Cruz. It might be Mike Bird, because that's a match later in the night. But you have to work your socks off, and it's that match in that moment. One slip up could end it all. One moment of brilliance, like I say, one kick, Bullet was done. Yeah. One move, Corey was blacked out, but the hype video doesn't do it justice. How excited I am about this one.
Oh, fantastic. How about this one, though? Richard Parliament versus Xander, the internet grudge match at Stowmarket Slam. This has had quite the build as well, hasn't it, Nick? And not only two extremely talent in the ring there, two amazing characters. And this is going to be a fantastic match. Like I say, we've already spoken about a few matches that's going to take place on the 13th. Give us your insight into this one.
With regards to this one, I have to laugh, not because I dismiss any of the talent in this match, but I enjoyed my moments on comms at the last Stowmarket because I had the privilege of teaming up with, I can't do his voice, mine would break, the goth baddie, Xander.
I can't get up that high either.
I'd have to squeeze really hard.
Yes, the unmentionables.
Yes, the unmentionables. Either that'll be kicked. But it was fun. I enjoyed the show. I mean, you had the YouTube match. You had Simon Miller making his debut in WorldWarWrestling. You had him against Richard Parliament. And the internet was ready to see this match. You've got Top Hat Gaming Man. You've got What Culture. You've got these two internet behemoths against each other. You've got the upstart, essentially, not to dismiss his talent, but you've got Simon Miller coming into WorldWarWrestling with everything to prove. Reputation elsewhere means nothing. Popularity on YouTube means nothing. Parliament has been away from WorldWarWrestling for a very long time, and he had to come back in and assert his dominance. I mean, Parliament was part of one of our main events, one of our first main events against the Dominator. So he's no slouch. He hasn't missed a step. He's come back stronger. But the thing is, as you've probably seen the match on YouTube, me and Xander had a bit of fun on the old commentary table. We did the entire match, but the internet fans of Richard Parliament, they weren't happy about how much fun we were having or how often we spoke. Xander's just a fun guy. When it comes to wrestling, he's just a fun guy, but when it's wrestling, it's tunnel vision. The paint on his face is corpse paint, and he just goes stoic. He has some fun, but he knows what he's in there to do. But he gets under the skin of Parliament. I mean, Parliament himself is arrogant. He was cutting ad breaks in the middle of the match. I mean, who even does that? Nips to the ringside. I don't know what he said. I can't remember, but I don't know. Shadow Legends, something like that. Who even does that in the middle of a wrestling match unless he's got utter contempt for who he's facing? So he lost in that last match against Xander. And obviously this match has come. This is the internet grudge match. I'm looking forward to seeing it as a wrestling fan, but I may have to lean on the side of enjoying Xander beat him up, because I can imagine now, I can hear it in the future, the deafening hate that the internet will have for him. But that'll just spur on Xander, because he is that talented, he is that good. But likewise, Parliament will have to prove, after losing to Simon Miller, that the internet should still adore him. Yeah. So that's going to be wicked again. Again, it could be match of the night. There's just so much going on. There's so much depth and everything going on in World War now.
100%. Speaking of depth, I'm going to jump straight to the men's heavyweight championship match. Will Cruz versus Mike Bird. You mentioned it. You alluded to it earlier on. Will Cruz winning championships all over the UK. The current World War Wrestling heavyweight champion, going up against a veteran of the UK scene, Mike Bird. This is going to be a match between two wrestlers, contrasting styles, contrasting characters, but both can hit hard. Both have got an arsenal of moves in their back pocket. And it's had a great build and should be a fantastic heavyweight championship match.
Yeah, definitely. Every time I see Will Cruz come out to the ring, his nickname that he was quickly given was the War Beast. Essentially, then it somehow along the way it merged as the fans took to him more as the War Baby, but ultimately the War Beast. Because, I mean, he's huge. Let's be fair about this. To witness Will Cruz in person, he's going to hurt.
An intimidating figure when you're up close. He's a big guy.
Yeah, but he backs it up. And given how 100%. Big he is, have you ever seen him pull off a moonsault?
I've seen him do some pretty remarkable things in that ring up close, for sure.
Yeah, if you see him do a moonsault and rolling into a Death Valley driver or reverse, if you see him do that, you think you shouldn't move like that. That's not to dismiss him based on his size, thinking body shaming, but he should not move like that. Seeing him do a reverse Frankenstein on somebody where he jumps up that high that he can do the move, wrap his legs around somebody's head, which are the equivalent of having a couple of tree trunks, just bang straight down. He shouldn't move like he does. But again, he's evolved beyond your template heavyweight. That's why he's everywhere, winning belts, because you don't get what you see. You just see this behemoth, this physical specimen, and think, well, he's a big lad. He's going to ground and pound. He's going to beat me to an inch of my life, which he can do. But that's not the measure of Will Cruz. Like with Mike Bird, his opponent, Mike Bird, when he was in that War Trials match, which was his proving ground, again, I've said to you before that the War Trials is you've never been in World War Wrestling. Come and show us you're hard enough.
Yeah.
Come and show us your ego's checked. Your record behind, like wherever you've been, means nada. That's where you come in and show what you've got. We've had world champions come out of it. Will Cruz is one of them. Will Cruz is one of them. Our former champions, they were one of them. Sky Smithson's got the belt now. Torino was in the War Trials. It's a proving ground of come in and show you can do what you need to do. Make World Wrestling either love you or hate you, but prove you belong in the war zone. And in Mike Bird, I see he's every bit the professional. WWE wouldn't have bothered with him if he wasn't. But he's a thinking man's wrestler in the truest possible terms. He doesn't waste motion. He doesn't waste a move. You can always see that he's like a chess player in the ring.
Yeah.
He's one step ahead. There's a certain incident in the match. Sorry, tripping over my words. There's a certain incident in that War Trials match where CJ Carter goes up top. And he looks to dive on Mike Bird. And Mike Bird knows to bait him in, but in that last second steps away and makes him look foolish. Because that's knowing who's around him and where he's going to go, but knowing that he could move out of the way. He could leave him on the top rope staring at him as much as say I was going to hit you. Or he could bait him in, move at the last minute, and cause that miscalculation, which just means that CJ Carter just goes, and that takes him out. Yeah. That's the level of up here for thinking, down there for dancing, essentially.
100%, yeah.
So this match is going to be a contrast to styles, but if you think that Will Cruz is going to dominate in the throwing of hands, that Mike Bird is going to win in the speed front, or that there's going to be a misstep in terms of one's technical ability in the other, no. It's an exciting match, but no, right off either of them at your peril, and it could go either way.
Absolutely. It's the dynamics in the ring between those two wrestlers that can be really, really exciting to watch on the day. And the last match we're going to talk about for the meantime, Sky Smithson, the current World War Wrestling Women's Champion, against Mariah May. Once again, another awesome match to cap off a card of amazing matches. But Sky Smithson, she's pretty much everywhere at the minute. But I'm guessing you're proud to have her as your champion. And this is going to be a great championship match, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, we'll talk about the artwork I've done in the past. But one of the things that I did with a member of the World Wrestling Management, it was just me and him. we created the image for the belts you see, the tag belts, the Champion of War heavyweight belt, and obviously this belt. From my point of view, I like seeing my artwork in the best light possible. But as a wrestling fan, I like seeing the best wrestling possible. And there is no one, in my humble opinion, that deserves that belt at this moment more than Skye Smithson. She lost in a match at Stowmarket before, unfortunately, again, the last 2 years unpleasantness went sideways. But she could have gone away. She could have faded into obscurity. She could have let it get inside of her head of, I'm a nearly ran. But she didn't. She has worked so hard to evolve, to build herself back up, to add new to her arsenal, to find that confidence, to find the level of 11 on the amp for arrogance, but being able to deliver it. She is the villainess. She's the villainess for a reason. Not only because she's violent, she's vicious, but it's easier to back a villain because when you have a villain, they're always a villain. They know that they're quite happy with being villain. They'll do whatever it takes to win. They'll bend the rules, fine, but they'll be able to back up the viciousness. If you've got a hero to root for, you always will, but they may take questionable sort of, well, we'll see. But with regards to Smithson, there's no one that carries my belt, well, my belt, it's our belt with such esteem and deserving. I mean, obviously you've got Cruz, you've got the Rebellion, but for the women's point of view, she works her backside off. When she won the match against Madison Miles, which was no pushover, I know because I got a knee to the back of the head. That was fun because I was refereeing that one. But either one of those women would be worthy of our belt. But Skye won the belt on the basis that she knew what it was to lose because she had. She came back stronger. She fights to protect the belt because it's hers. She knows she could lose at a moment's notice, but she works to make sure she doesn't. So for me, yeah, she is one of the most dominant females in Brit Wrestling. She should be everywhere, more than she is now. As for Mariah May, she made her debut against Madison Miles again. Seems to be a theme here. Madison Miles again. She's no slouch whatsoever. Mariah came in, the expectation of having to be, you're in World War Wrestling now, where you've been, where you've done, whatever, it counts for nothing. Come in. She again worked smart. She was able to walk away with the win over Madison Miles. So she comes back in after that match. Where's she been? Everywhere. Where is she now? Everywhere. She's again been one of those people that has gone away. She could have faded into obscurity. She could have rested on her laurels. She could have stuck to her status quo. But when it was go time, when the restrictions dropped, she was ready to go. She was training behind the scenes already. She's got this vicious streak now inside of her, which channeled into, I'm coming for your gold. I mean, you just look at her Instagram and Twitter. She's collecting some serious belts up and down the country. But she deserves them because of how hard she works, how much she's improved. And again, if I was Skye Smithson, I'm not saying that she should be scared because she doesn't do fear. But don't underestimate her. Don't underestimate her based on maybe she was unsure of herself a little bit on her debut. But I think it would be foolish if you thought, oh, I've got this covered. This one's in the bag. A quick 1, 2, 3, and I'm done. And I'm really excited for every single one of these matches.
Oh, indeed. And now that you've kind of whetted our appetite even more for the 6 matches that we've just spoken about, Stowmarket Slam, March the 13th. Thank you for correcting me earlier. But if any of my listeners or viewers want to get tickets to watch it in person, where's the best place for them to go? How can they be there in the flesh and watch on the day? Well,
WorldWarWrestling.com. It's a very easy website to use. I know, because I built it. If you go onto the World War Wrestling website, then you can actually go on there and there's a link that says buy tickets. It will take you straight through to the World War Wrestling shop. You'll get a wristband on the night that shows you were there and obviously everything else. Or if you want the front row tickets, which is definitely an experience in itself, then go through one of the social media channels, drop a message on the Contact Us page on the website, go through Facebook, go through Insta, hell, go through Twitter and any other means, but it's not something you want to miss. And with how professionally run World War is, they will be quick to engage with you and see what your need is. So you can get them from loads of places. I'm not sure, but I think you can actually walk up on you can walk up on the night in case you're unsure. But I think you can also secure a spot at the front desk of the centre. I'm not sure, though. That would need to be a conversation with World War.
But definitely through the website and through their social media with all the information there. But thank you for that. We got so much more to get into, including your wrestling fandom, NTK. But the first time we have met, and the first only time that I did meet you, we did hit it off. We had a good chat before the show and after the show. And in fact, I think I was putting flyers on the chairs around the ring, and you cheekily said you missed one, and I was looking around and thinking, no, I haven't, cheeky bugger. But then we had a little bit of a chat, and then we had a good chat after it. We didn't have a chance to chat between the show because you were there refereeing all 7 matches, weren't you, at Immortal Rest in November last year. But that was a hell of a show, and it looks like it's where we first had the chance to meet one another and have a good talk. You showed me your tattoo, the WorldWarWrestling badge on your on your arm there. But thinking back to that show in November, that was a really good card, some great matches, wasn't it, and a good night.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there were actually 8, which when you think about it is insane. Having 8 matches on a show, it's like a mini WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And it was surprising for me. I mean, I'm not the best physical specimen, and not to put myself in a position where I am king, but doing 8 matches, it took it out of me. But every match offered something different. The 6-man elimination terrified me because there were some big boys in there.
Oh, yeah.
A lot
of beef in that ring.
Yeah, I genuinely thought maybe this is how I die, to be honest. But yeah, Joe Lando, that amazing, like crazy mother flipper who taken the place by storm. Yeah, it was awesome, wasn't it? That was genuinely awesome. Obviously, you had Damien. He was against Lion Kid for their main belt. That again was a match of big man that could look like he could absolutely decimate and destroy Lion Kid, which ultimately got the pin. But Lion Kid will give you everything and then more because it meant everything to him to win that belt. But also that's what you get from him. You get what you pay for. A professional that will go and go and go until he can't anymore.
Frankie T versus Johnny Storm.
Yeah, classic. Frankie T against Johnny Storm. Everyone thought it'd be just a foregone conclusion that obviously the worldly vet that is Johnny Storm would literally walk away with it. But again, it's one of those things. In a heartbeat, in a hiccup, if you're underestimating somebody, or even if they're just that moment quicker than you, like Frankie found, he tapped him out. He latched him in. He cinched in and he tapped out Johnny, the Wonder Kid Storm. And he walked away with the belt.
Yeah.
I mean, seeing Champagne Charlie, I'm sorry I missed the low blow. I've seen it since, but, you know, I'm a ref. I can't see everything. But I do feel sorry for him. But again, all of the matches were solid. There was for the 8 matches, obviously they're over a certain period of time. And when you go on first, I think it favors you in that regard because you're on it, you're in it, you're doing it. But that's the sign of a professional, that you could be in match 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way to the end, but then you're good to go. You're still in the mindset of, I've got a match to do. And it's a case of, right, giving it on your all and everything else. That's why Damien and Lion Kid was really good, because it was almost as if they were starting first with how fresh they were, the things they did.
And it was a first-time match as well. A hell of a match between those two.
Yeah, I genuinely felt sorry for Lion Kid. And again, it was one of those, I'm glad I'm refereeing moments. How high he was flying around and how hard he was hitting them out. I thought, oh, that's going to hurt.
Yeah.
And obviously,
it was a great show, and they're coming back soon, as a matter of fact. Like I say, Immortal Wrestling comes back to the Venom nightclub in Westbury, Wiltshire, on the 23rd of April. So little over or little under 2 months away. You'll be there. I'll be there. Yeah. It's a stacked card. Go to their social media pages to check out the matches that have been announced so far. I think one of the matches is Martin Kirby versus Joe Lando, which is going to be phenomenal. I think another match that's been announced, and this could all change. You've got Yeston Reese versus Dan Maloney. I mean, come on, you've got two amazing matches there announced already, and I'm sure Damien will be back defending his championship, as will some of the other champions. But a fantastic night of wrestling entertainment, and if you're in the area, get your tickets there. I think you can go to Eventbrite and get your tickets for Immortal Rest in the 23rd of April. And looking forward to seeing you again there, my friend. And hopefully you're not refereeing every single match. In fact, I don't think you are refereeing every single match, but you'll be able to have breaks. But
I hope so.
Before we continue, Nick, got to throw a quick plug to our sponsors. The brilliant 1310 Apparel, who sponsor not only this podcast, the Wrestling with John's podcast, but the collection of podcasts, John's Podcasting Network. And if you head over to their store at WrestleMerch Central, you can see their fantastic range of apparel, from their hardcore range of T-shirts and hoodies there to their Lucha line of apparel, through to their more traditional 1310 and Four Corners apparel. And they do sponsor some very well-known UK wrestlers. We mentioned Sky Smithson and Heidi Katrina, along with Northwest Strong's Chris Ridgway, being some of the many awesome UK talent that are sponsored by 1310 Apparel. And if you head over to 1310's Big Cartel store and their WrestleMerch Central store, you can get the exclusive Heidi Katrina shirt on sale now. And more specifically, you could use this discount code at their 1310.merch.global store over at WrestleMerch Central, and you can get 10% off of all that lovely swag that we've just mentioned just by entering the discount code 1310WMC. That's 1310WMC over on their WrestleMerch Central store. So, Nick, it's back over to us, and I've got to ask you about World War Wrestling, because you've been a big part of their history. I think they've been around for about 6 or 7 years now, so they've quite well established. Yeah. And when did you first become part of that Suffolk-based promotion, World War Wrestling?
Well, it's interesting because in 2014, it was October the 11th. I had a friend at the time say to me, "Look, this guy I know." Well, this group of people I know setting up a new promotion down in Gillingham. Now, living in Norfolk, I thought, oh, that's not too bad. That's not far. He was like, no, Kent. I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. That's a long way. And he said, do you want to come down? Because I'm going to go down and see if I can't lend a hand, say hello. So I was like, okay, I'm not really feeling up to it. But all right then. Because I didn't know anybody. At the time, I was unmedicated for being the bipolar sufferer that I am. So I was pretty much stuck in my own headspace. I had glow in the dark, essentially bright yellow, supposed to be blonde dyed hair. And I went into this venue and there was a guy there with slightly shorter hair than he's got now because his hair falls that way, and he was sorting out the ring. Anyway, it was a case of, right, come and say hello. So I was like, okay. I walked over and this guy stood up, turned around, and no word of a lie, said to me, oh, hello. The fuck is going on with your hair? And that was Brett Meadows. Yeah, hell of an introduction.
That's Brett all over.
To somebody who's not really sure he wants to be there. Yeah, cheers, pal. But in that moment, something clicked, and I ended up sitting on the merch table for the show. And if you look hard enough, well, you don't even need to look hard. If you look into the darkness of the Gillingham surrounding area, you see glowing. That's me. So it was interesting. It was a very interesting one. But for me, World War Wrestling saved my love of wrestling. And I know people will know me and be like, yeah, but you're a World War Wrestling guy. I am now for a good reason. But for me, World War Wrestling saved wrestling for me because the American-based products, I won't name drop, but they're not great. They seem to have fallen off of the wagon in terms of where they are in story terms. Characters are a bit lacking. The churn of, oh, I like him, and then he's gone again. Oh, I like her, and she's gone again into the abyss. So World War was a case of seeing these just giants of human beings. Titan was there. He's a giant of a human being anyway. He's huge. Seeing Dominator, who's now obviously retired, seeing him, he's huge. He's absolutely massive. Scarlet, Vicious, Aisha Ray, evil. Delightful Powers, the list goes on. All of the people I've met through World War Wrestling are their own characters, which are all funny or you hate them in their own way. But for me, it's about the product.
Yeah.
There's no fluff piece. There's no stupid amount of glitz and glamour and everything else. For me, it's why I fell in love with wrestling. You've got 2 people, 4 people, however many people in the ring trying to beat the high holy hell out of each other. Sometimes for the audience, but most of it is just that tunnel vision of beating the hell out of each other for me, which took me back to my base level of love of wrestling and why I wanted in. I missed World Wrestling 2 because I had an appointment or something, but since then, I've not missed one. I went back at World Wrestling 3, running my own business from ringside, and then James Castle, the anarchist, decided he was going to beat the hell out of Drake. Was it Drake? Yeah, I think so. Sorry. And then he thought that once Voodoo came out, he would beat the hell out of Amara, the Voodoo Queen. Anyway, so he did that, but then Dominator had had enough, and then we had the whole pull-apart brawl. I'd lost quite a bit of weight at that point, and I was trying to put myself between Dominator and James Castle. If you see that picture, it's like a rake trying to restrain a chest freezer. So in this time, I've obviously built up the friendship and the rapport with Brett and the rest of World War Wrestling management, and it came to the fact they were going to do a show in Suffolk at the Ston and Barns, where we ended up doing 3 shows. And he said, unfortunately, one of our commentators couldn't make it. And I said, well, just a throwaway statement. If you need another commentator, I'll do it. Not with any confidence I could do it. Just one of those, yeah, I'll do it. So I made my debut at Ston and Barns at World Wrestling 1. When I made that debut, it was a case of before I was about to go out, oh, what's your name going to be? What are you going to be, Nick Arbon? I thought, no, I'm not. My first ever wrestling match that I ever saw was of a 6'10" dead guy in 1991 with red hair, no tattoos, and body handling gloves called The Undertaker. And I'm thinking,
whatever happened to him, eh?
Yeah, I don't know if he had any success. I don't think he had an undefeated streak at one of the biggest shows on the planet. But
yeah, something like that.
I thought, oh no, I'm going to go with Calloway. Because obviously everyone knows now, I can drop the curtain, Mark William Calloway is Undertaker's real name. But I changed the spelling, and since then I've been Nick Calloway as my tribute to the guy that first created the chemical change in my brain that made me want to be involved in wrestling. And then obviously I met World War, which made me fall in love with it all over again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And here we are now.
And we've spoken about the design of the belts and the logo more than anything. You had quite a hand in the design of that logo, I understand. Tell us about that and how it all came about, or am I mistaken?
You're mistaken. That logo, as much as I'd love to take ownership of it, that was about long before I was. Long before I was. But again, with regards
but it was the championship belts that you had a hand in.
Yeah, we did an army show for some officers, which we've done 3 wrestling shows for the army now. The British Army, which is a massive sort of British wrestling company. Yeah, we'll entertain you squaddies, no worries. And we did the army show. I got to referee. It was a good show. And then we got back to where I was staying. I stayed with World War Wrestling Management, and we sat there decompressing from a good show. Different experience to anything I've ever done. I've never refereed for the army or in front of the army. And we sat there. I was like, right, we're going to need some belts then, aren't we? So I sat there, and me and Brett, it was a case of, right, we need some belts. So we sat there, and Brett said, I want to make it something different. Can we put some bullets on this? Bullets? You mean like the bandolier thing? No. I just want somewhere on here, I want it to be different. So on the side plate of the Champions of War, you've got bullets. You've got the crown either side, which obviously is a British company. We have the crown, which essentially is what the ring is on top of the logo. Other companies, rightly or wrongly, will do their logo on the main plate as this is our champion and everything else. We went for something big, bold, ballsy, which was our logo. because there's nothing like it.
It's
what
an
it
awesome
is.
logo. Yeah, it really is. And I brought up the picture, and I'll bring up the picture again. It's a great logo. I think one of the best logos from any UK wrestling promotion. It really does stand out. It's different to a lot of logos from wrestling promotions around the UK. Yeah, I think it's a cracker.
Yeah, it's sharp, it's punchy.
Yeah.
It makes no promises, it's never backed up. World War Wrestling, you're coming in, you're going to wage war, and it's going to be wrestling. Anyone from over the world, throughout the world, is welcome. But it's going to be war. You walk into the war zone, and that is not a gimmick. The environment is, there's going to be some warriors tonight. Men, women. There is no defining line. You're going to see war.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to bring up some names now, because we spoke a bit off air. And one thing that I've noticed, and I've had a few of these names on the podcast already, but it's been a good proving ground for new or relatively unknown talent, and it's helped to get them to that next level. And I credit World War Wrestling and Brett and the guys behind the scenes with doing that precise thing with a lot of the names I'm going to mention, with the likes of Sky Smithson. We've spoken about her a lot already. Mercedes Blaze, Madison Miles, Will Cruz, Charlie Winston, Xander, The Rebellion, and so many more. You can probably give me a few more names. But it seems like when you come into World War Wrestling, you might have been known kind of in your local promotion. You might have won a championship or two. But World War Wrestling seems to give you the platform to go to the next level, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's because everyone across the board in World War Wrestling, whether you've been there since day one, whether you've actually come in to prove yourself, you get exactly the same every time. You're there to wrestle that match, to make it the best it is. And that'll obviously have an effect on the newbies coming in. Matt Walters, our first ever champion of war. If you see him from the first ever World War Wrestling at World War Wrestling 1 against the Governor Martin Stone, later Danny Burch when he was at WWE, he lost that match. And again, he could have gone into himself, he could have gone to ground. But then he went on a tear. Every time you'd see him, he'd evolve. He'd be stronger, he'd be quicker, he'd add more to his arsenal, he'd be he goes by the Dark Wolf, but he is a different animal. But he's a stalwart, he's a pillar of World War Wrestling. Danny Blaze, the same. Countless others, the same, that have been there since day one, but they don't rest on their laurels. So if you're coming in, it's not just about proving yourself to the fans, it's about proving that you can go with the people that are already there, that your passion matches theirs, that you want to up your game to prove to them that this is where you are, this is where you belong. Your Torinos that was in the War Trials match, he brought in Taylor James with him, and they are the best tag team in Britain, as I've said.
Yeah.
And they've proven that for us. You don't get the belt on your shoulder if you're no good. They beat the Hit Set. They beat the Goth Laddies. But the last one, I've never seen a flamingo wearing eyeliner until that day.
That's a match that has to be seen.
It does, because when you see a grown man come out with an inflatable flamingo and do countless moves all the time with a smile on his face, it's just infectious.
Oh, don't you just love pro wrestling?
Anything happens. I'm not going to say anything can happen, because that sounds like a copywritten phrase somewhere else. But with the proving ground that World War Wrestling is, again, people will up their game because there is no game to refer back to. People may have heard murmurs, they may have even seen matches everywhere else, but it means nothing. And people will. I mean, Will Cruz, he had a few matches that obviously turns the heads of management to get him on our shows in the first place. He's no slouch. He's evolved. One of the shows that we did, Stowmarket 5, I think it was, he was against Sugar Dunkerton, who then had a thing on AEW with Chris Jericho. That's no bad thing. But again, he's improved. Smithson's kicked herself up the backside and works harder than most people.
Yeah.
Everyone who comes in, Corey McRae, this will be the match that he's had against Bullet, which is the trios match, like the final match. Draven, he's known down in RCWA and countless other places. He's won belts countless other places, but that counts for nothing. And it may have either given people the platform to show they can do, which turns the heads of everyone else elsewhere, or it's just given them a completely different galvanizing effect of, yeah, if I can do this at World War Wrestling the way I do, I can do this anywhere. So it's basically a tick in the box of, I can do this, and it might be a confidence thing. I don't know, but you're quite right that this is a platform. where people want to come in, want to work their socks off to prove they belong, and obviously to dominate. And it fills me with so much pride that it's British wrestling at its finest.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, having spoken to the likes of Will Cruz and Charlie Winston on the podcast, and yeah, like I say, glowing words about WorldWarWrestling and what it's been able to do for their careers. It really has helped them and countless other UK talent take that next step in their career. But I want to ask you a bit more about your wrestling fandom then, Nick. You mentioned about The Undertaker being kind of your guy, basically, the first person you clapped eyes on when you started watching wrestling all them years ago. But what other kind of wrestlers or classic matches or moments kind of really stand out throughout your wrestling fandom? Kind of the really, during a grey Sunday afternoon when there's nothing on the telly and you want to put the WWE Network on and some classic matches, what do you go to?
Well, when I was at school, I was quite a dumpy lad, quite a withdrawn sort of guy. And my idol now, with only one other exception, and we'll get to him in a minute, is Mick Foley. Because Mick Foley did it for the undesirable. And I know everyone said, oh my God, Mrs. Foley's baby boy did it. But he did. He gave it everything he's got. He's feeling the harshness of everything he's done now. But he didn't have the bodybuilder physique. Most people wrote him off. But for me, there's just that passion, the love of wrestling, the love of wanting to do it for the fans or not. There was just that intense love of, I'm going to give it everything I've got. And that for me was, he's not the best looking bloke. He's covered in a mask or covered in scars or setting himself on fire, or he's blown out a hip. He's got a tooth coming out of his nose. But for me, Mick Foley turned my head because there was the passion for what he did, the never say die attitude, and the fact that he didn't fit the mold of you need to have a six-pack and a lifetime subscription to David Dickinson's shoe polish tan to make it, to be lovely. And since he's left the wrestling, he's still a lovely guy. He's got a social conscience. He engages with fans. So for me, that for me, there is no ego, even though he has reached the pinnacle. Another one, unfortunately, he passed away way too early, was Owen Hart. For me, yes, Bret Hart is very good. But for me, the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be was his brother, because he did the things that Bret wasn't prepared to risk yet. He offered a technical style, which I honestly say has influenced a lot now. Yeah. It's the perfect machination of the old boys like Regal and Fit Finlay, who would do the technical. He will hit you as hard as hell. I mean, he had matches with Ken Shamrock, including the Lion's Den match, which, there's a lot of toughness that goes into that. There's not a single person since he's died that's said what a horrible bloke he was. Not a single one. I've never, ever seen a bad word said about him. And he passed away in 1999. So I'm really pleased that AEW are doing their tournaments in honor of him. It doesn't shock me that WWE are allowed nowhere near it, but I have my own thoughts on that situation. But I was allowed to stay up in 1999 because my birthday is the 24th of May. And obviously Owen was on the show, so was Mick Foley at the Over the Edge pay-per-view. And obviously we know how that ended.
Yeah.
You know where you were if you're a wrestling fan when that happened. And then obviously heartbreak of losing an idol. You're not used to knowing how to deal with it. And then the tribute show, which was to this day one of the most honest, raw, beautiful things that happened the Monday, well, literally the night afterwards, which was my birthday. Yeah. And again, you see all these wrestlers, the curtain falls. They talk about Owen Hart with the love, the admiration. And I think had he been fortunate enough to live long enough and decided to go for it, he'd have the belt on his shoulder. But he's influenced generations and generations. So for me, it's Mick Foley and Owen.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would argue against them choices there. And I mean, you mentioned earlier some brief thoughts on the modern day product. So obviously we've got WWE's WrestleMania around the corner. AEW's got a big show this coming weekend, Revolution. What's your thoughts on the modern product? Obviously, we know you're a huge fan of the UK indie scene, but does anything regarding, I think it's big shows that are coming up, or the American product, do you still watch it? Are you still fascinated as a fan?
I used to. Well, I was World War. I was WWF through and through.
Yeah,
but I would sit and watch WCW and ECW because it indulged my sweet tooth on so many different levels. If I was having a bad day, I'd see people make each other bleed. If I wanted to see a technical masterclass, I'd watch Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero at WCW. If I wanted to see somebody take a beating but still come out on top as an underdog, I'd watch WWF and see Mick Foley win a match that nobody gave him credit for. In terms of the new products, the only time I've watched WrestleMania in recent memory was when I watched Undertaker retire after his match against AJ, the Boneyard match. WWE, for me, have missed a step. They don't seem to be where they used to be. They seem to have... They're trying too hard to make characters still very much supernatural and beyond the realms of reasonable. Undertaker, for me, is him retiring is the death of the last great gimmick, but you can't get away with saying a bloke will bury you alive now. And that's not a wrestling thing. That's why would you want to let your kid watch a grown man bury another one alive unless it was the end of an era? With regards to AEW, though, I like the excitement of them giving the freedom that they do. I'm waiting for them to pull the trigger on Jamie Hayter because she's violent, she's vicious, and I think that she's getting more and more frustrated. She is, of course, our former women's champion, and I want to see her against Britt Baker. That's a match I want to see. I want to see her against all the others, but her turning to beat the hell out of Britt, I think that's going to be one of the matches of the year.
Oh yeah,
it's got to happen because Jamie's no one's lackey, friend or not. Hangman Adam Page, he's a good champion. He's a very good champion. And again, that storyline that led, everything else that led to him winning the belt, I mean, that was since the inception of AEW that seed was planted. He lost in the main event to crown the first ever champion against Chris Jericho. But him winning the belt was 2 years in the making. He could have gone away, he could have lost it all, but he came back stronger, and now he's got the big shiny platinum thing on his shoulder.
One of the best wrestling storylines in modern history, for sure.
Well, it's definitely one of the longest. Yeah. There can't be many wrestlers that are still working for the same company to have that storyline with so many people. I mean, he's torn it up with the Young Bucks. He had to beat Kenny Omega to win the belt. He's done it on his own. And what is he? I think he's 31 now. And for me, he's on top of the wrestling world due to hard work. And it's a gimmick you can buy into. The wholesome cowboy that, one of my favourite tag teams when I was little was the Smoking Guns, Billy and Bart. I still can't get used to the fact that Billy Gunn's in his 60s and wrestling, but his hairline's a little bit a little bit further back. But
let's not talk about hairlines, mate.
Mate.
Please carry on. Let's move on.
Yeah, AEW for me, that's a good place to be. Impact's definitely picked itself up because I think they've got it now where they're not trying to sell out big venues and TV studios. They've got that intimate niche.
They found their niche, haven't they? Yeah. Yeah,
like Ring of Honor used to have. It's a very sort of, this is where the wrestling's happening rather than we've got a $500,000 Tron behind us. I don't really watch much of the Japanese stuff, only highlights to see them beating the hell out of each other. I'd love to see Will Cruz go over there because it'd just be free license to hurt people. And like with Winston, they've never seen anything like him. So I'm all for that. But it'll always be a love affair now for me with Brit Rest. You come here to prove you can do it and the rest of the world will watch you.
100%. 100%. Let's talk a bit about this then, Nick.
Yes.
NTK Creations. Yep. Tell us about the creation of this. What was the inspiration behind starting your own design company where you do T-shirts, logos? We've spoken about a few of them already, but tell us a bit about that and kind of how that started way back when. Well,
I've always drawn because it's my safety net. It's the one thing I can do where I can take myself away, pick up a pad of paper and just I can disappear. That's the honest truth of it. So for me, when I went to the World Wrestling shows, I would sit there with a pad of paper and I'd just draw, because that was me being me and everything else was going on around me. But I went to the World Wrestling shows and I had pictures. I'll send you one of the Scarlet ones. It wasn't the best. It really wasn't the best. She'd probably punch me in the throat if she saw it now. But it turned people's heads. They were like, "Oh, it's really good, mate. It's really good." But then, after my art teacher at high school said to me, "You lack the basic skills or fundamentals to produce anything considered artwork." Oh, cheers, mate. Thanks. But that was my GCSE, and he lost my coursework, so I got an E. Anyway, years later, fast forward, I took the plunge and I did a picture for Brett Meadows. You've probably got that there, the pen and ink one that's now on his wall with NTA in the corner. And I did that and I gave it to him and he loved it. As far as I know, it's still on his kitchen wall. I don't think it's a coaster, but I did that. But the Nyctophilia artwork, as it was known, was because of Brett. The name is because of him, because he referred to me, or we were talking about something, and he said about nyctophiles, which is like nyctophilia is finding solace and comfort in the darkness. And we were talking about wrestling names, and that's after he said, "I don't know, you could wrestle as Dick Venom." We're not doing that. And then he said the nyctophile comment, and I thought, nyctophile, okay, researched it, Nyctophilia. My name's Nick, right, let's go for Nyctophilia. And then it was artwork, because at the time all I did was draw. Fast forward a bit and start turning some heads, I thought, well, I do all sorts of other things. I don't want to be limited to just drawing. I paint, create the models, everything else, websites. So I thought, right, well, NTC, NTK Creations, it opens it up. It's still not right. So I thought, okay, NTK, NTK Creations with a K, because Nyctophilia wouldn't be a name I'd given it if it wasn't for Brett. The K is my silent tribute to him, because obviously for years he's wrestled as Brett the Craft Meadows. And he's obviously backed me out as a relative nobody to design the belts with him for WorldWarWrestling. He trusted me when I said I'd built him a website that he hadn't even asked for. They didn't know until I said, "Oh, I've built you a website," to replace the other one, which was ballsy, which is unlike me. And obviously from there, people have had their heads turned. I've recently finished the hand-drawn comic for Smithson. I've done the complete redesign for Bullet. I've done one for Ronnie Knox. I'm doing one for New Force Wrestling now. I've done all sorts of different things, but I'm open to new ideas. I've done the plops for Lion Kid. So for me, it's my freedom, but it used to be a shield. It used to be hiding behind it. You can argue with NTK, but Nick can step away from it.
Let's have a look at some of your creations then, not just your artwork, but it kind of goes above and beyond. So give us a very quick synopsis on some of these then.
There they are.
Talk to us about these.
Well, they're little plot figures. They're 3D printed and obviously modified. The eyes of Damien and the blood and everything else, the stitching is actually stitched into the plastic. I did it myself. I know, because I've got the scar on my thumb. The bosom of the boss lady, should we call it that, with the 3 W's was added afterwards. But for me, it's just a little bit of fun. It's plops. It's like the pop figures, but with more personality. Not one single one is the same. And it captures the essence of the characters. I mean, the Damien one obviously doesn't have his long hair. But like, for example, I've done, hang on, let me have a look. The Ultimate Plopper.
Nice.
I've done the plop, which just says just plop it on it. Complete with the eyebrow. And obviously I've done others, but like this one, the Kane one that I'm doing at the minute, needs his hair.
Yeah.
But his mask is real leather. So
That's amazing.
It's just a passion for me, really.
Yeah. I'm going to bring up a couple more. We spoke briefly about the side plates that you created there for the heavyweight championship, the women's championship. Awesome designs there, but that's, I think, the Damien one that you was referring to earlier on. Who's that?
That's no one in particular. Again, when I explain this to people, they're like, "Hang on a minute, you have women tied up in your head." No. With regards to this one, you asked me to choose some images that had particular significance for me. This is one of those. For the simple fact that I draw the female form in a non-scary way, so they're not in any way threatened by the circumstances, because it represents the beauty of humanity and nature, for me anyway. And the ropes are supposed to be decorative and beautiful, but it shows the shackles of everyday life. That beauty restrained by everything else that could happen in the world. So some people will say it's weird, creepy, disturbing, whatever else, without asking the question. And at the time I was seeing a girl called Sarah, and this conversation happened, should I find that image creepy and disturbing? But we split up because she said, well, I wouldn't take it to heart because I like you despite being you. It's like, hang on, sorry, pardon? And in that moment, I thought, well, no, because my artwork is me. I am my artwork, and it's a representation of who I am. So you can like me despite me being me, but I'm okay with being me, whether you do or not. So we split up, and this is me now. So tough.
Yeah. Just very quickly, we've got a couple of other images. The Hearts and Essex wrestling. Is that their official logo or something bespoke that you did for them?
Logo. Yeah, that's the official logo. Cool. They wanted to have it updated, so I was given basically free rein to do what I needed to. I sketched it out, and, well, the blood is hand-drawn. All of it's put together by hand, and it was just fun to do. It was fun to see something so bold away from the original and make somebody so happy to see it that it was like, wow, that's my company. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. We've had a question come through from a Catherine Short via Facebook, as a matter of fact, just coming up as Facebook user there, but I've checked it as Catherine Short. And if you had to choose one, art or wrestling, probably the toughest question I'm going to ask you today, but not from me. If you had to choose one to stay, one to go.
I don't have to choose. I'm not.
you don't have, no, it's just a hypothetical question.
One can't, if I was to do away with one or the other, they would still have they would have the same impact on me. It would be a half life. I wouldn't be the Nick I am. So I can't say, because I'd be surrendering part of me if I gave up either of them.
An interesting question nonetheless.
Yes,
and we've had Sammy Boyne, who's been in touch via Facebook. Yes, Nick's art, amazing. Been doing it for years, so a big fan of you and your artwork there. So that's absolutely amazing. That's absolutely amazing. So what we want to talk about now is you've got a bit of a special announcement for us. I think something special is happening about now, 9 o'clock UK time. But you're going to be doing some T-shirts, but I'm going to let you kind of fill us in on what's happening at 9 o'clock this evening.
Right. Well, as we're speaking, various mechanisms behind the scenes that I set up earlier, hopefully they work. I'm basically launching my first website, which is NTKCreations.co.uk. And on there, as it stands, there is a run of 16 different T-shirts like that one that you have there, which is various color schemes as autism awareness, because it's a non-aggressive way that people can show their heart, it's hard to explain, whatever is at their core. If you love somebody who has autism and you want to show it without having to say my kid or I'm autistic, it's about the symbolism of showing your heart to be a caring individual. There's so many different colors on there. If you can't see the color, then we will find a way to give you the color you want. But it's about showing your heart. I mean, after the last 2 years, with everything that's going on in the Ukraine, I'll deal with the elephant in the room. It's horrendous. It is absolutely, well, it's piss poor. It shouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
I want to see the good in people. And by doing that, you have to show you care, show your heart, and obviously share your pride of self, because at the end of the day, there's only one you. And I want people to feel comfortable that they can do that. And that's what's the basis for these T-shirts. So that will go live soon. There'll be posts on Facebook and Instagram. The T-shirts will be live. They do small to 3XL with the NTK logo on the back, so you can show off where you got it from. The colors are really, really vibrant, And at the moment, because I'm on here with the wonderful Johners, I am doing a discount at the minute. Whereas if you're in the UK, if you use that code from now until the start of April, you will get free postage and packaging in the UK.
That's amazing.
But if
just read out the website address one more time, and we'll make sure the link is added to the description. But just tell us where we need to go.
Well, if you go to www.nickfeelycreations.co.uk, it's all on there. There are only these t-shirts on there at the moment. But like I say, I'm a creator. There'll be loads of things. There'll be plops on there. There'll be horror figures. There'll be things that people can buy, such as their own custom logos. So just keep it NTK, and there'll be so much stuff on there in the coming weeks and months and beyond.
100%. Like I say, I'll make sure that the link to that website is added to the description of this podcast. So whether you're watching this after the live broadcast or watching on YouTube or any of the audio versions out there, then you'll be able to click into that link and go straight to the website, check out Nick's awesome work. And of course, if any wrestling talent is watching this and wants to get in touch, how can they reach out to you and maybe ask you to design a logo or a t-shirt for them, Nick?
Well, if you actually get in touch with me, probably best on Facebook at the moment, because I'm working on the presence everywhere else. So if you go onto Facebook and then look for Nick Toff Creations, again, I'll provide you with the link. Oh, there you go. If you go onto any of those, if you drop me a message, it'll probably be easier, and I will get back in touch with you. But I can promise you that when I create your artwork, as you will see, clip art is not something I'm interested in. The one thing I pride myself on with all of the things I do is I'll sketch it out first, and I will use my graphics tablet and whatever else to create something that reflects your character, you as a person. I want your t-shirts, I want your merch to be the ones you go through the cupboard to find and go, oh yeah, rather than just a generic t-shirt or a generic font that you go, that's a piece of art that I will wear and it represents you as a wrestler. Or your fans can say, I'm a Smithson fan, I'm a Ronnie Knox fan, and all the rest of it.
100%. And Tama's been in touch again, saying that she needs one of those t-shirts, Nick. So we've told her where to get in touch and where to purchase one of your fantastic designs. But as we kind of edge closer to the end of this interview, then Nick, I've got a couple of final questions. And you've been in the business for a number of years now. You've seen a lot of amazing action up close and personal, whether it be as a commentator, as a fan, as a referee. But what's been some of your favourite moments in the wrestling business, a favorite match or favorite moment, or just kind of being there in person? What's some of those memories that will stand out to you forever?
One of them will obviously be walking out for WorldWarWrestling the first time. It wasn't the best debut, as anyone will tell you, because it was a little bit quiet. For a guy who won't shut up about wrestling, I was a little bit quiet. But it's a moment in history. I'd redo it if I could, but unfortunately it just shows my development. But walking out and having somebody have the faith put in me to say, you know your stuff when it comes to wrestling, I'm quite pleased to see you represent my company, not only as a backstage hand, which is a very important job and shouldn't be understated, but being there for that moment and walking out and all of the fans are like, who's this? That for me will always stay in my memory because it showed me that somebody had that faith in me. It does every time I walk out, but for me, that was the moment. Seeing Dark Wolf have his match in the Champions of War tournament against the Dominator, which is one of the best matches I've seen, because they just, if you could have seen Matt's chest after that match, that was horrible. And being hit with frying pan like right hands was like a gun going off. But being part of WorldWarWrestling, there's so many different things. Seeing the first ever the champions crowned. Obviously, when I commentate, I have to be a good guy. But again, I like to root for the bad guys. But regardless, when I see my championships on the shoulder of somebody who has won a match to win them, and the look of pride to have the WorldWarWrestling brand on their shoulder, to have something that me and only one other person have had a hand in creating, for me, that's top. That's, yes, Mr. Art Teacher, I lack the basic skills and fundamentals. We've designed 4 of the best belts in Britain, I reckon. Some of the most recognizable belts in Europe by people that have gone on to be in the Mae Young tournament, like Aisha Ray, Jamie Hayter, Mercedes Blaze, Bram, and the ever-consistent Dark Wolf Matt Walters, Cruz, the Rebellion. We've had some of the best matches. So seeing them with the belts on their shoulder, for me, is a very big sort of ego boost of, I did that. In terms of women's matches, though, seeing Scarlett versus Aisha for the first ever women's championship was savage. That wasn't a wrestling match. That was just an out-and-out fight. They were just going to beat the hell out of each other, whether there's a belt on the line or not. But the fact that everyone in World War Wrestling, when they're there, give their all. They're not ego-driven. There's no feeling of, I don't like you, you're making this awkward to be around you before a show. Yes, there's characters. They always will be. They've got their own motivations for being there, but they're humble. They're humbled by their visit to World War Wrestling, and they want to come back. They just can't get enough of it, and neither can I, even after all these years. I mean, I was a wrestling fan for WWF for a long time, but it's quite telling that I have the World War Wrestling logo on my shoulder.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And before we let you go, one quick plug once again for this show here. Sunday, the 13th of March, Stowmarket Slam. Tell us why we should dig deep into our pockets and buy a ticket for that show and support World War Wrestling on the 13th of March.
World War Wrestling will give you the production value you expect, the presentation you expect, the wrestling you probably don't expect. There have been instances where I've been to wrestling shows in the past and some of the matches are a bit, I'm no discredit to anyone, I won't name drop, but some of them fall below the levels you'd expect. At World War Wrestling, no one is a slouch. Not one of these matches I think, oh, that's going to be a bit weak, or that's not something I've engaged with. The storytelling, the implications from the match, the Bullet McRae match writes itself. You should pay just to watch that one. But the matches are solid. The energy, you will leave World War Wrestling a wrestling fan again because of how it's presented, because of the matches, because of the stories, because of the intensity. I mean, look at some of them. There is not a match there that I don't want to see. I am behind the desk of a commentary table for a company that puts on these matches. This, for me, is like a kid in the sweet shop. Please talk about wrestling. Okay. Talk about these matches. Oh, okay, if you insist.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just dig. Well, for me, value for money in what you get. You say about digging deep in your pocket. It's not as deep as some, but we always deliver. So get your tickets. And if you haven't got your tickets, why not?
Absolutely. And before we say goodbye to you, a quick plug for my next interviewee. Next Monday, the 7th of March, I've got this man here, a man you know very well. The mastermind, Ollie Spring, will be the next guest on Wrestling with Johners. I think it's episode 229 we're up to now, but that'll be next Monday, 8 o'clock live, 8 o'clock UK time, of course. So subscribe to us on YouTube, Twitch, follow us on Facebook so you can watch this interview with Ollie Spring live, the mastermind, progress commentator of so many great promotions around the UK. One of the best, in my opinion, will be on the Wrestling with Johners podcast next Monday, 8 p.m. Make sure you tune in. But Nick, it's been an absolute honor and a privilege and a pleasure speaking to you for the last nearly hour and a quarter. Time has absolutely flown. But thank you so much for being an awesome guest, and I hope you've enjoyed yourself.
I have. Thank you very much for having me. And before I forget, one last thing. There's a young man out there, the Green Scorpion, Liam, who's been part of the Blaze section since day dot. He's recently had an injury because he's a really accomplished footballer. And I just want to wish him well with his recovery because we're all thinking of him. He's like one of our biggest and longest serving fans. And also to let him know, and he'll know exactly what I mean by this, don't worry, mate. In your recovery, you're never going to be lonely. I promise. That's
awesome. But Nick, look forward to seeing you again on the 23rd of April from the Venom nightclub, Immortal Wrestling once again. But in the meantime, thank you so much for being an awesome guest.
Thanks for having me, John. It's a pleasure.
Take care.